Hi, everybody. I am here today with Coach Corey Scott, who is from Canada. I'm so excited to bring you Corey today because he is out of 30 years of coaching, probably my most favorite coach I've ever had. Some of
Mm.
my coaches are going to be listening to this, but I'm telling you, I love you all. And Corey has just really impacted me in such a powerful
Mm.
way in my life. I've had shifts quickly. Now, maybe it's because I've had the other coaches who have prepared me for these shifts. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
right.
I really have noticed a quick shift in my thinking while I have been working for you. And that leaves more room in my head for thoughts that serve me, right? I don't know if they're getting diluted, eliminated, whatever. But I mean, I have room for creativity, problem solving, less anxiety in just what I do in real estate, which is huge because that's a high anxiety type of industry. I wanted to bring you Corey today because I want to make sure that people have everything they need to have
Mm.
a successful life. And I
Mm.
think you provide access to that, Corey. So, welcome.
Mm.
So, tell us a little bit about you. You live in Canada.
So I worked a lot in facilitating and training. I also worked in employment counseling, which is sort of like coaching, but in my opinion, far less effective. So quite a bit of management experience and leading, my organization through quality improvement and things like that. A lot of training at places like Queen's University and other areas, a lot of project management experience. Coaching has always been there, though, as a big part of what I do. It's always been, I'd say, my first love. I have a master's degree in human systems intervention, which is really about organizational psychology. And we sort of approach that kind of OD the same way that I approach coaching, which is you're the expert in your life, just like the team or the company is the expert in theirs. And I create the framework and the conversation for them to sort of see some blind spots or some patterns of thinking and create a dialogue for them to explore the reality and find better ways of moving forward. So it's like coaching in the sense that I'm not coming in as the expert writing a report and saying do this, 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 and this. I'm creating the framework for you to figure it out for yourself, which is very much how we approach coaching.
That's my favorite part. Is like you ask me questions that allow me to really absorb, contemplate what's happening and what has been happening all along that I may not have been aware of, even because it's so subconscious. And then
Yeah.
I'm able to solve the problem.
Yeah, and I think part of the coaching experience, we're reflecting back, we're noticing patterns, we're bringing up, gentle challenges, things like that. But also it's also just the act of taking the time to
Mhm.
think about it in a way that you probably would not give yourself permission to do if you weren't in a coaching session.
And tell me more specifically about why coaching is, in your opinion, more effective than counseling.
Therapy is done by psychologists and masters of counseling and psychiatrists and things like that. They have a certain extensive education and expertise in certain areas. And the function of therapy is really to process trauma, right? Coaching is more about what do you want? What do you want more of? What's the goal? How do we get you there? And in the pursuit of that goal, sometimes things come up that might be blocking us, right?
Mhm.
That might be more in the line of self-belief and stories that we tell ourselves and things like that. So coaching has a very different focus. I'd also say that I'm an ICF coach, International Coaching Federation, so largest gold standard certification body for coaches in the world. There are ethical standards and there are sort of ways in which you coach or do not coach within that body. And really, one of the main tenets of that is that you're not providing advice, you're not the expert, guiding the client. You're, again, creating a framework for them to explore their own reality. I think it leads to a lot more aha moments than if I'm acting more like a mentor.
Right.
Right.
Because there is the word coaching that's been wrapped around the here's what your path is, and you need to do this, and you need to do it by that, and there's accountability with it, and blah, blah, blah. And that's all great. I mean, I have that too. But when it comes to, for me, what has been in the way of me taking those actions,
Yeah.
that's where the work is done, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that call themselves coaches. I'm not sure they are coaches. And there's a lot of misunderstanding of what we might call, mindset work too. So there's a lot of people out there going rah, 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 but don't really understand what it takes, what it means to really shift in that way. So
Yeah.
now there's amazing, beautiful coaches out there, lots of them. I just want to say that coach is a little bit of maybe an overused term sometimes.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So what was your intention when because this is like service work, in my opinion, to the world, right? It's really, you have to do your own work to be able to help
Yeah.
others. So what have you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's so insightful, and you've hit the nail right on the head. It is a call to service. There is this feeling that people don't need to limit themselves in the way that they often think they do. And so it is definitely for me a call to service. I think we're on this earth to learn, to grow, to serve. So that's my personal belief. And coaching is the most powerful way that I've seen to do that for me personally. And I consider it an absolute honor to be involved in somebody's life and see who they are and their insights and their dreams and desires, and see them come to places that they hadn't been before and to find new paths forward. I mean, it's incredibly humbling and amazing. Like, it never ever feels like work. It's always joyful work to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 That's when you know you've been called to something, right? Is it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Not all the time, but
Yeah.
we're human. But it's like,
Yeah,
wow.
exactly. Yeah, I have times where I might not be feeling up to it on certain days, but it's much easier to get yourself in a position to serve when you realize that there's a human being on the other end that is looking to achieve something.
Yeah.
And, even if you're not maybe in a prime place, you get yourself into that place. You get yourself into a position to be able to serve. And I do that a lot because I do deep breathing and meditation and sometimes visualization about serving my client before the meeting to help me really come from that place.
It's funny you mentioned that because I'm always so impressed with, I don't think that's the right word, but stunning to me how you're in Canada and I'm in North Carolina, and the connection on a Zoom call is still amazing. Like, you can just hone right in on something, even feel what I'm feeling sometimes. So, I mean, that is a developed listening skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Humble listening and intentional listening. There's theories about levels of listening, and the goal is to try to get to the highest level of listening where you're not only taking in what people say and not say, but also the nonverbal. And sometimes there's this sense that something important is coming that you get in this work, and you can't direct the person to that because then you're not being a coach, but you can anticipate something big is happening here, right? And so that can only happen when you're really intensely listening.
I agree. It's awesome. So, how do you determine what issues to discuss?
Client decides.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The client, part of working with me is that you come with a goal, with a topic that you want to bring forward in that session that ties into sort of an overarching topic or theme that we're working on. And it will shift sometimes as you start to explore. You've probably experienced that yourself, where you came in with one idea, and then as we started to explore it, then you realized, actually, no, the topic for me is this. And then we shift towards that, and that's often part of the process. But the client comes in with it, and the whole idea behind coaching is constructionism, that we construct our reality, and that it's the lens by which we see ourselves and our world that really determines that. So woven through coaching is the idea that you have within you whatever you need to construct the life and the business and everything else that you want. So what is the story you're telling yourself, or what is the lens that you're looking at things, or what haven't you considered that can help you shift that and start to claim your power and make your life to be more proactive rather than reactive?
I love that. It's so powerful. Wow. So oftentimes people will go looking for a root cause. So of a problem, right? I'm always like, let me go dig in the weeds and see what I can pull up today. And it's kind of like that iceberg that did sink the Titanic, but with proper radar today, you can avoid that ice underneath the surface that can't be seen. We've just grown so much in our awareness. If you can see a surface, something's probably underneath that may be even bigger. So can you speak to that?
Well, I'll say a couple of things. That sense making is for the client, and there may be things that I bring up and ask for their perspective or input. It might be in there, but I hold on to those intuitions very, very loosely, because I don't want to be directing a client. I want them to go where they need to go. So I might bring it up, and in some cases, the client might seize on that and really want to explore that. In other cases, it won't feel relevant to them, and we go where they want to go. But I'll also say that the danger there is you start to drift into therapy, where, again, therapy is about processing past trauma and releasing it, which I think is really important, really, really important, but it's not the realm of coaching. So to dig too much into those weeds, the question then becomes why? Like, why are you digging into it? Is there something there that will help you transform your current situation and reach a level or a goal that you want to reach? Because if that understanding doesn't help aid you in that quest, why are we doing it? Right. So if there is a causal connection that the client establishes between a core base sort of family legacy or trauma or something like that, and they connect that with, this will help me achieve this goal, then it's worth exploring.
Yeah.
But exploring it being in the mud or the weeds, so to speak, as you said, that is not the purpose of coaching.
We have a tendency to get fascinated with the why. We'll turn it around upside down, look at it from every possible angle. And it's just a waste of time, because it's not happening right now. It's what happened, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. We spend too much time projecting into the future or recriminating in the past, and it's the more that we can spend in the present, the better. So I think that's a pretty keen insight.
Okay, so who is that ideal client for you?
So I think coaching is good for anybody that's interested in achieving goals and being coachable, in the sense that they're open to exploring. For me, I really do enjoy working with, well, I enjoy working with everybody, but I really do like working with entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
I consider real estate agents entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs are very interesting people. They have some qualities that I think are pretty amazing and pretty rare. They're bigger risk takers than the average population. I think they're better problem solvers when they're not sort of overthinking things. And I think there's something special about the fact that they're really those people that set goals and seek to achieve them. And it sounds funny to entrepreneurs, but I don't think most people are like that. So I think it's unique qualities, and so I really enjoy that. And I really enjoy, so for instance, in real estate, there is a lot of chasing going on, chasing of different things that you hear, a lot of shiny object syndrome. I do think entrepreneurs are sort of prone to overthinking. And so I try to help them in some cases get out of the hamster wheel in the head and into their wisdom and their intuition, where they make, I think, better decisions. They're used to goal setting, and coaching is about goal setting, right? So it comes fairly naturally to them, but it's very interesting to see them start to expand their understanding of why they're not getting there and what they need to do to get there. And a lot of the times, there is at least an element of getting in their own way,
Yeah.
sort of emotionally, mentally, mindset wise, getting in their own way, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense to you.
Uh, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
The other thing I'd say is they might understand it intellectually,
Mhm.
but that's not enough, right? They have to understand how it plays out in an embodied way, what actions you take or don't take because of that story going around in your head. And then, when you talked about overthinking, I've challenged you before, I think, where I've said, is there a different way to think about this or something? And then you pause and you sort of step out of this and you start, okay, what's really the core here? That didn't come from me. That
Mhm.
came from you, right? I just created an opportunity for you to give yourself permission to look at it in a different way.
Yeah.
Right? Does
Yeah.
that make sense to you?
When your head and
Yep.
your heart come together, like miracles happen, right?
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
so often either deep in our feelings or deep in our, reasons, then we miss the opportunity for the moment. And I think that's probably one of the main things that you have taught me. The walking around mindfulness, the breathing, what would you call those actions?
Yeah. Parts of a practice. Although I'd say that, when we talk about things like that, that's where I'm stepping outside of coaching,
Mm,
because you've asked me, have you ever seen anything that works? And then I say to you, have you ever seen anything that works? What has worked for you in the past? What hasn't? And if we get to a situation where you're really hitting a wall with ideas, then I might say, do you want to brainstorm together? And then we might brainstorm together. And then I think you said to me, do you know anything that's worked? Because this is driving me crazy. And at that point, after we've explored and explored and explored, I'm willing to offer something, but it's always like the last resort, because I want you coming to that realization and figuring out something that works for you.
yeah.
Right?
And it's
Yeah.
sometimes just been as simple as taking some moments to just breathe
Mm.
and let that fight or flight syndrome calm down, reduce the anxiety, and allow my brain to come from that genius place of creativity, right? That just exists for everyone. That's a natural human operation, of our body, is to just get into that anxious moment. And you've taught me to just breathe, you know?
Well, deep breathing is such a simple thing,
Mm.
and I have found it to be incredibly powerful. Not only in my own work, but many clients have reported the impact of it. It's nothing new, right? It didn't come from me, but it's out there. Everybody knows about it. Nobody uses it. And I think it's such a powerful thing, because it kind of acts as this wall between anxiety and fear starting and it taking over. And when you get back to a more neutral emotional place, your creativity goes back up, your problem solving goes back up, your sense of agency goes back up. So something as simple as being aware, because your body is like your early warning system,
Yes.
right? So being aware that it's happening instead of suppressing it, which is what we usually do, and then doing something as simple as deep breathing. I mean, we've talked about other practices and techniques, but something as simple as deep breathing can make a big difference, right?
Yesterday I was in the car and I started to feel this anxious thought about a file I'm working on right now. And I looked up and I realized the clouds were in front of the sun, right? They were blocking some of the sunlight. And it allowed me just to pause for a second, just to notice that, you know what, beyond those clouds is sunlight. Like when you're on a plane and you're above the clouds, there's nothing but sun up there, right? And so it was just a moment to really, for me and my faith background, I prefer to take that moment and just hand it over and go, you know what, this is already handled. This is an issue that's already handled. I can just notice where my part is, what I need to do to facilitate it, and then keep going. So it was really beautiful yesterday.
To me, that's in a way constructionism, right? It's the lens by which you're seeing yourself in the world, and the lens by which you see the world being proactive, the lens by which you see yourself. And it's so freeing. So freeing when you have a moment like that. And that's a moment of presence too.
Mm-hmm. So, guys, if you want to connect with Corey, he has generously offered a free, maybe 10 or 15-minute call so you guys can see if you are a good fit for each other. Just reach out to him by email and he will respond to that email for you. I really, truly hope that you will take him up on that offer, because I'm telling you, I get nothing from this by sharing it with you other than I know that I have contributed to your life in a positive way, because he has truly done so much for me that I wish the whole world could have this way of operating. Corey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I mean, I'm humbled by your words. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, we will
Yeah.
be talking soon.